Good evening, Colin. Good morning. Good evening. Good morning. Did I say good morning? See, I haven't finished my coffee yet. So, hello, everybody. We're super excited to be with you today. We have a lot to talk about. There are lots of really fun things coming up. Um, it's so good to see you, Colin. I was just saying before we got on how calm Colin is and how amazing his energy feels. So I love connecting with him before we go live. So thank you for your presence this morning and evening for you. I am going to pull up here where I can see our feeds so we can answer questions today. Colin and I have had some really fun things coming up, some people writing in to ask questions. And there's a couple really great ones. But there's also some really sensitive topics that I think we want to discuss today. And we'll get to those, but I think what we're going to do is just open it up with some of these questions that we have. And just kind of get the conversation going as people come in and start watching the live. So do you want me to read these for you, Colin, so that way you don't have to go back and forth, and then we can, is that okay with you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So um, so this morning I had a question that came in from Ryan. So thank you, Ryan, for sending this in. And it says, do you feel that with the planetary alignment which is the first 26,000 years, occurs on December 21st, will be when the Earth's tilt will be corrected? So basically, this is ending that 26,000 year cycle, essentially. And when December 21st hits, ending this cycle that the planets go through, will that then correct on that day the Earth's tilt from being thrown off? I know we've talked about that quite a bit.
Yeah, um, the short answer is no.
Mhm.
Um, a realignment of the Earth's rotational spin would actually cause major tectonic plate shifts on the planet, and it would also create a lot of electromagnetic interference in the atmosphere. And I don't think the Earth would actually be able to recover from a sudden change in the rotational spin of the Earth. Um, just because of the energies involved and the gravitational effects of all of that.
Mhm.
By gravitation, I mean electromagnetic, but because gravity doesn't really exist, but people understand gravity, and there are different forces that play. And when these forces begin um, to exert themselves on the Earth's tectonic plates, then that would be too much too much of a jolt on Earth, and would create major, um, you know, catastrophic events,
Yeah.
like earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and I'm sure the satanic forces would love that to happen because,
Wouldn't they though?
yeah, 21st of December has always been one of the days in the year when the Satanists actually have traditionally, held human sacrifices and child sacrifices. In ancient England, for instance, the Druids they used to, because the summer solstice was the day when the sun stopped moving further south, and it started to go back into the northern hemisphere. So it was always celebrated as a change
Right.
in climate, and so it was a day of celebration when, in a sense, the sun died and the sun rose again on the 25th of December. That's why we
Yeah.
have
And that's where you get the story of Jesus dying and
and the birth
mhm,
on the 25th of December, which was not Jesus' birthday. It was impossible for him to have been born anywhere near the 25th of December.
yeah,
But it was carried through this solar sun worship religions, their pagan religions of the old days. And on the 21st of December, they would the a family would have to come volunteer to sacrifice one of their children
right.
uh, as as a gift to the gods, the sun god, for changing now back into a warmer climate, as it were. So yeah, it's very much part of the superstition, and 21st of December is not a good day on this planet except for the Satans.
Yeah. No, I find that really fascinating. Um, and it's, having grown up Catholic when I had my own children, while I was pregnant, actually, my first child, which was over 24 years ago, right? I started to have all of this information come in. And, at the time, I didn't know, what it was or, where it was coming from. But I had all this stuff of like, you can't celebrate um, Christmas and Halloween and Easter, and all this stuff started coming to me. And I thought, well, why in the world can't I do that? And and I intuitively knew, growing up Catholic and walking into the church every time and seeing all these horrifying pictures everywhere, right, and hearing these awful stories, that I was like, oh my gosh, I realized there was some satanic element to it. But
Yeah,
I hadn't really thought about, my energies in my joyous celebration, as participating in uh, satanic rituals, right? And I know that intention is a really big thing, where you're putting your intention, but inadvertently, I still think that some of those um, loving, joyful, amazing memories are still feeding that system, that satanic system. And I do think it's changing though. So, where we're not going to have a catastrophic um, shift in the polls, right? Which would be catastrophic, in my opinion, to back you up as well, Colin. I think that we're starting to have, the consciousness shift is really taking a foothold. And so, it's kind of like the uh, just like we've been laying down this groundwork, as working in the fields yourself, laying down this groundwork for the light to slowly and start to take over. So I kind of see it as more of an energetic shift, kind of more of a slow shift into um, the rituals, the satanic rituals, and these kinds of things are slowly not getting swept under the rug. They're actually getting taken care of and taken over by the light. So consciousness is shifting.
yeah. The date, I think that people can expect a shift on this planet. A major shift is around about the 26th and 27th of February,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is the Jewish festival of Purim, which celebrates Esther, the story of Esther in the Bible,
Uh-huh.
where she was able to persuade her husband not to kill the Jews,
Yeah.
and instead turned all those who were against the Jews. He had all of those killed.
Yeah.
So it seems that that is kind of the planned date.
Yeah, does that have something to do with healing? Is that the Ayani massacre? Is that the same thing, or is that a little bit different? That's an older, I'll have to look in, let me put a bookmark in that. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. Um, all right, Ellie, I hope that answered your question on the 21st of December. Why is it good for Satanists? I think we're, clarifying that it's just traditionally when the time shifts, Colin explains it better than me. I kind of go a little more esoteric, and Colin's got the science pieces down. So it's why we make such a really good team. We can see both, but I hope that was helpful. You're welcome, Ryan. Okay, so we have another question that was sent in. And so this one's really fun. Colin had sent this from someone who sent in, and it says, I want to know more. I want to know my higher self and how to communicate with him. Please help me. And that can be so challenging, right? Sometimes we're talking to our higher self, and we don't even know that that's who we're talking to, right? So,
Yeah.
so, um, so let's help. Let's help him, Colin. What do you say about, how I want to know how to talk to my higher self? What can I do?
Yeah, they really just talk to yourself.
Right? It doesn't have
Because
to be complicated.
yeah, it's not higher as in away from you.
Mhm.
Just that your higher self exists on a different timeline to you, and uh, is if they on a higher dimension, they are quite aware of you, and when you speak to them, they hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's very rare that they will speak back to you, which they did in my case. They actually began to speak back to me,
Mhm.
and I was able to make direct contact with my higher self. But there's a process that's involved. If you really want to have a deeper relationship with a higher dimensional being who is yourself in another timeline or in another time-space continuum, then you have to clear out a lot of um, the, I was going to say rubble.
Yeah, it's the
you have
negative
to,
ego. I call it the negative ego, or the some
you
people
have
will call it the shadow. But
Yeah, you have to clear out a lot of the stuff inside of you that is preventing you from being authentic.
yeah,
Okay. And so that means we've all been brainwashed here from the time we are born. It's like we enter into a hypnotic state.
yeah,
And so all this information is given to us so that by the time we at the age of 7, we are totally hypnotized by false values and false information.
yeah,
And all of that stuff is it creates a barrier between ourselves and what is real outside of ourselves and in the universe. And if you want to be in contact with beings in higher dimensions, in other universe, you have to understand how the universe works
yeah,
and how you work as a soul being. And that
yeah,
means you getting back to your authentic self without all the indoctrination and lies you've been told to recognize who you really are. And to recognize who you really are, you have to recognize your thoughts and your emotions. Where do they come from? Who put them there? Are they genuinely yours or they're somebody else's thoughts and emotions? So
yeah,
you having an experience that is being given to you by someone else instead of having your own authentic experiences. And that takes a lot of work. With me, it was watching my thoughts. Where does this thought come from? Watching my emotions. Why did I react in that way? Was it necessary to react? Who put that emotion inside me?
right,
Am I, a condition to react to certain things, or can I genuinely behave and think and feel in a way that is authentically me?
yeah,
So it's very important for people to do that if they want to have an experience of higher dimensional beings, because they can't communicate with a human mind that is cognitively dissonant.
Mhm.
In other
Thank you for
words,
that. Mhm.
they're not able to actually see what they see. They see what they've been told to see.
Yep.
So everything that we see has been named by someone else for us. So if you see a dog, you think that's a dog, but do you see that there's a soul being there? Do you see that this being has fur and it's 4 legs and it wags its tail and it's very faithful to you and it's very friendly, or it's barking at you, or it's barking at something? Do you actually see that?
Yeah.
Or do you just see the dog?
I love that. There's, I kind of wrote, I did a collaborative book a little while back with several different authors, and that's finally what I came down to. My chapter was about was, in a roundabout way, because I kind of did it like a session on myself, connecting in with my guides, and that's what it is. Why? And that's something I always questioned growing up. Why is this called this, and why is that called that, and how come? Asking questions, and where does it come from? And even as a massage therapist, and I think so many words are overused and misused, but as an empath, right? When we have that ability to feel other people's emotions, and as a massage therapist, when I would touch people, like touch any part of their body, I just get a barrage of pictures and emotions and all of this stuff. And I thought, oh my gosh. And I used to have to take my hands off to go, okay, hold on, is that mine or is that theirs? Right. And then you have to ask questions, ask questions. And you mentioned the age 7, and I find that very important. By age 7, we are the way we're going to be. And after that, it's going to take some massive adult work, actually, if you haven't ingrained certain behaviors, cognitive abilities, these kinds of things. And by age 12, we should, this is our original plan, have an idea and know what our soul is. And we don't, right? And so now as adults, here we are floundering around asking these questions. How the hell do I talk to my higher self? Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
No,
yeah.
I recognized when I started to wake up, and my higher self actually challenged me on this. He said, "Why aren't you the person that you were born?"
Mm.
I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Can you remember what you were like when you were 2 years old?" And I said, "No, I can't even remember what I was like when I was 7 years old." And then he said to me, "Well, do go back and do a, a reclamation of your child.
Yeah.
Reclaim your child.
Yeah.
Reclaim who you were when you were born here." Because that is the way to become a genuine person. Because when you can recognize who you were when you were born here, and you can recognize how you got changed into something else, then when you regress like that, you can actually go and get in touch and contact and remember and reclaim that inner child that you were when you were born here.
Yeah.
And because that's who you really are.
Yeah.
If you want to be authentic, that's who you really are. You were the little baby that came out of your mother's womb and said, "Wah!"
Yeah, I call that, like a birth transduction, resequencing, going back to that, reclaim that moment, right? Because we have the ability to actually go back to that moment. We are time travelers as human beings, understanding that we can do that, and we can reclaim each moment that has happened
Yeah.
to us in time, and we
Yeah.
can correct it.
It took me about 3 months of going back and remembering
Mhm.
what were you like when you were 7. Then I remembered my school teacher and the school I was going to. Then I started to remember little things like the bus that we used to catch and standing in the cold waiting for the bus to take us to school. And then I remembered my friends who were there. And then I started to think about all the things that happened when I was 7 years old. And then I went back into when I was 6 years old. What happened when I was 6 years old? And I started to remember events when I was a 6-year-old, playing with my friends down at the river, playing on the sports field, watching my dog chase rabbits. And then I went back further down. What was you like when you were 5? And I thought, well, I don't really do. And as I did that, I began to remember. I remember when I was 5, I got sick and I had the flu, and I was alone because my siblings, I was the youngest, so that all my siblings were out at school. And my mother came and she gave me a puzzle to do while I was in bed. And she fussed about me, which is unlike my mother. She never fussed about us at all. But because I was sick, she fussed about. So I remembered that.
Mhm.
And then I started to remember the house that we lived in, because when I was 7, we moved. And when I was 5, we lived in a different house. There were 2 big palm trees outside the house, and there was an owl in the palm tree. And then I remember the pet that we had at that time. I remember the cat, and cat. And then I progressed to 4. What was I like when I was 4? And slowly I progressed all the way down to when I was 1-year-old child. And I could remember, struggling and to walk, and my teeth started to come out, and I was crying. I didn't understand why I was, I had this pain in my mouth.
Mhm.
And then I went back, and then eventually I could remember when I was born.
Yeah.
I remember actually going from this nice, warm, liquid surroundings into this wide, empty space with all these lights around me that blinded me, and it was terrifying.
Yeah.
And I remember the horror of actually being born.
Yeah. Well, I think, everyone talks about how birth is such a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful thing. And it's actually very terrifying for the soul. It's very, very terrifying. And people don't understand that. They think, oh, yay, you're pregnant. This is beautiful. You're bringing a life into the world. It's more beautiful to die, in my personal opinion, because you get to go back home and you get to, do all these things. Birth is terrifying. It's
Yeah,
terrifying.
yeah.
So,
That's why I really believe in these births in water
yeah,
birth.
yeah.
They've, when you heat the water to the same temperature as the body, so
Mhm.
that when a baby emerges, it doesn't get all this fright, and you don't have all these lights around, and you don't have all the drama and getting smacked on the bottom and having to cough up,
Yeah.
them and being held upside down. And
I have too much electricity. The very first, well, I do home births. My very first was in a hospital, but the rest of them are home births. So, no little to no lights on, that kind of thing. But when I tried a water birth with my second child, um, I felt like I was being electrocuted, because I have a lot. I break computers, phones. I'll suck the batteries dry, like all this stuff. But I got in the water and I felt like I was being electrocuted, and the baby's heart rate went down. So I had to go back, to the bed. But, we, but overall, I think for most people, I think water birth is ideal. So long as you don't carry an electromagnetic current that will
yeah,
electrify you.
and if you can keep the lighting down, so that you don't have these bright lights, that's what I remembered most, when the 2 things: big space, there was no longer water around me, and then I had these lights in my eyes. And then what happened, everything happened so fast after that, I didn't really remember that.
Mhm.
Um, but a lot of detail I did remember. But the nice thing about it, I remembered when I was 3 years old, I had a little sand pit in the backyard. And my mom told me years later that I used to spend many hours in my sand pit talking to a little boy. And she said one day she came to the sand pit and she said, "Who are you talking to?" And I said, "I'm talking to this little black boy." And she said, "What little black boy?" So I said, "That one. Can't you see him?" And I pointed him and said, "I'm talking to him." And she looked and she said she couldn't see anybody. But I obviously could see this little black boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remembered that. I remember we played in the sandpit, and I talked to him for hours. She said she couldn't understand it. I was spent almost the whole day just sitting in the sandpit playing and talking to this person that I saw.
I love that. And that's what children can do, not only, connecting with our higher selves from other dimensions, which oftentimes that could have been the little boy coming down to play, could have been your higher self very easily,
Yeah,
because they'll, aspects of self or even guides will come in a form that will be comfortable for us so we're not scared, those kinds of things. And not everyone, gets to talk about um, or, talk to their higher selves as clearly, right? Some can see physically and some can hear. It's all completely different. And then at some point, it can all just go away. And it doesn't mean any of your abilities or your authenticity has disappeared or anything like that. It just means that you don't need those crutches anymore, right? And it just
yeah,
becomes an unknowing, and I call that a cellular knowing, right? It's just you just know it immediately, and it is what it is. I hope that
yeah.
that answers
Yeah,
the
like I
question.
said in the beginning, the way to talk to your higher self is talk to yourself,
Yeah, talk to
because you
yourself.
you are your higher self,
Yeah.
but just in different dimension.
Yep. Yep. I agree. And if you see yourself looking different, that's okay too. Pouring more coffee. This is a great morning talk. Okay. Thank you, Colin. That was amazing. Okay, so another question. This is a little bit long, and so I'm going to read it slowly, so it's really clear, right? Because it's a multifaceted, and I think a lot of people a lot of people have this series of questions in terms of what we're going to do here. So, okay. How do we transcend the solid form? I am hearing that there are layers of light associated with solid form. Do the layers consist of color, sound? And I am not sure what else a layer could be. So tell me more about the layers if there is truth to it. Also, if color is a layer, I may have experienced transcending this layer yesterday. When I came out of the book group building, there was a car next to mine. I saw the car as a cream color, while at lunch, others in the group said it was a silver color. Can the color change if I am transcending a layer? I ask this because for the past couple of days, I have been asking Source and my higher self and soul family to help me transcend solid form. It was good to see you today, blah, blah, blah. So I'm and everyone's doing well. So this person is saying we're doing well. I don't need to read that part, but thank you. What an excellent question. I think I think we're going to get some really good stuff out of this one because I have some fun things about that too. So yeah, when we're transcending, like how do we go from this solid to not, right, to our original forms? I think is kind of the question there. And will you, when you're ascending or transcending or transmuting or whatever, do you see things differently?
Yeah. Well, first of all, solid matter is an illusion.
Yeah.
That everything is vibrating, and it's not really solid. It just appears solid. So transcending solid form, one has to understand that nothing is solid really. It's just an illusion, and it's a hologram
An agreement,
of,
and we've agreed that it's solid. I just want to add that in. I don't want to interrupt you, but
yeah, yeah, and it's agreement you make with yourself to before you incarnate, you agree to incarnate into this dimension. And the nature of the reality in this dimension is solid matter,
yeah.
physical form. In the next dimensions 4, 5, and 6, in next harmonic bandwidth, we are not solid matter anymore. We become semi-etheric.
Right.
And then in
It,
the next bandwidth, we are etheric beings. And in the next dimension, we are liquid light.
and so
So
is that plasma light? Is that the same as plasma? Is that the liquid light or is that semi-etheric?
plasma is semi-etheric is plasma, but
Yeah.
essentially from a scientific point of view, they're the same. So yeah, in the next dimension, the harmonic bandwidth will be have plasma bodies. And a plasma is just a highly charged field of ion, positive and negative ions,
Right.
you know. So that's in essence what we are. But the thing is, if we agree to the lie, with the lie that we are just solid matter, you know, and that's all we are, then we actually deny the very essence of who we are, because we are not just solid matter, we are thoughts and emotions. You can't see either thoughts and emotions. You only see the outcomes of having them. But in essence, thoughts and emotions are what we are. We are not solid matter. And we just appear as solid because that's the agreement we made, that we contracted with, you know, before we incarnated here. And we agreed to appear as solid matter, but we are not solid matter because everything is vibration and frequency. And Einstein once said, if you could vibrate at the same rate of vibration of a wall, you could walk through the wall, because the wall's not solid, and neither are you. But you're just vibrating at different frequencies, so you when two different frequencies come together. Now, frequencies are just waves, okay? When two waves come and collide with each other, if they are in perfect resonance and cohesive with each other, they will flow over each other. But if they're not, you'll get the one wave which will collapse the other wave. And because of that wave collapse, they collide and they both disappear.
Yeah.
You know, in a kind of explosive way. But that's what we have with the walls and the things that around us are solid. They're not solid. They're just vibrating at a different frequency to us, so to our bodies. So, you know, it's like, how can I put this simply? It's like the opera lady singing and hitting the same vibration as the frequency of glass, and she shatters the glass with the frequency of her voice. It's because the frequency of a voice matches the frequency of the glass. Okay, it breaks down.
Illuminate.
Yeah, it breaks down the cellular structure of the glass, and it breaks the glass. Now, we are just all vibrating. We are all vibrating beings, really, and the vibrations come principally from our thoughts and our emotions. So if you want to transcend physical matter, you have to transcend your um, your conditioned mind,
Yeah.
your conditioned emotions,
Mhm.
and start feeling your authentic mind and your authentic emotions, because that's who you really are. And that's where you create this integrity of the soul. And that's how beings, when they have that soul integrity, that's how these beings from other dimensions can walk through walls,
Right.
because they can change the frequency, because they're in control of their vibrational state. Now, we are not in control of our vibrational state because we are so conditioned. So someone else has put us into a state of mind and a state of emotion. So again, it's from the same question as before. If you don't get back to that authenticity of self and start controlling the
Ego.
frequency and
Mhm.
vibration in your body, and how do you do that? Through your thoughts and emotions.
Exactly. It always goes back to thoughts and emotions.
Hmm.
And whoever controls the mind controls the soul.
Yeah,
And, that's what we ultimately what we need to overcome here. So
yeah,
basically, once we're transcending that, then colors can change, right? Because basically, she's asking, or he or she is asking, can the colors change then? Um, And, from my experience, I'm going to say they can change, and they do change. And it's what you decide. It's going to go right back to it's what you decide you want them to be, right? And it's really just that simple. Um, this is the way you're explaining things is really leading me to think, people say that, oh, we're going from, 3D to 5D, and there's this great bifurcation, which there is a bifurcation. But the way you're making me think of it in a different, not a different way, but in a way that I want to see if this resonates. That, right now, in the third dimensional world, we're carbon base, right? And I want to say that the bifurcation of going to 5D, or higher or whatever, that's more of a crystalline base. And so, how that resonates, right? That because that's kind of how I see that, which means, this is why we're having so many physical, mental and emotional strains, right? This is because we're actually changing the physicality of who we are through our intentions, because we're healing our mental and emotional bodies, which when we heal that, we heal the physical, right? Because
Yep.
the physical is the last to feel it. If you're not paying attention to stuff out here, it's just going to come all the way down and go, okay, well, if you're not going to deal with it out here where it's a lot easier, we're just going to hit you where it hurts, and that's in the body. That's
Yeah. Yeah. When we go into 5D, we'll have not only a crystalline based body, but we'll have a different structure right at the subatomic level.
Yeah,
So
beautiful.
we won't have the same chemistry in our bodies anymore. We'll have a different chemistry and
Mhm.
a lighter chemistry. And we'll have all the elements involved. We'll have our 3 strands of DNA back in the body.
Right.
The 1 strand of DNA has been removed from humans here by genetic manipulation and intermarriage with 2-stranded beings. So yeah, it's going to be very different when we ascend. We'll have a totally different physical structure.
Yeah, I completely agree. So book is saying the Schumann resonance was at 800 yesterday. And so, like, how can we leverage this beneficially as human beings? Like, is there something that we can do to benefit the planet or benefit, humanity? Um, how do we leverage the Schumann resonance?
But
That's his question.
the practical way is just to go walk barefoot.
Walk barefoot. Yes, everybody go outside and walk barefoot right now. Stat, right?
Because the Schumann resonance is really about the Earth's electromagnetic pulse.
Mhm.
Okay. And it pulses electric, magnetic, electric, magnetic. And the way to leverage off that is when you are barefoot on the ground, you're receiving that pulse, but you're also reflecting it backward.
Yeah.
So you're becoming part of the change by walking barefoot on the ground.
Mhm.
Um, I've watched the Schumann resonances, and I did a post recently about it, but I didn't know it went up to 800. I mean, that's unprecedented. That
Yeah.
is off the charts.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Which is why I'm sure he brings it up, right?
Yeah,
So,
and it will affect people at physically,
mhm,
because the brain, people have heard about brain waves.
mhm,
Now, brain waves resonate generally at the same frequency as the Schumann resonances. When they first discovered the Schumann resonances, 7.83 hertz,
mhm.
and when they measured the brain waves, it was a 7.83 hertz.
Isn't
So
that curious?
it's going to affect people physically from the point of view that will raise the environment in which your brain operates.
Yeah.
Okay, and it can have different effects with different people. There's just so many scenarios. Because I've given a lot of thought quite a while ago, because it was going past the 10 hertz, 13 hertz, and then going up. Then it went up to 40 hertz recently, and then 800 hertz. I can't just imagine what the change that will be. And like I said, we live in a physical world, but that physical world is vibration and frequency. Everything's vibration and frequency. And it's these electromagnetic pulses coming off from the earth. It's called the heartbeat of the earth. It's the way the heart beats. And at 7.8 hertz, that's in the theta range of frequencies. Okay. And now it's going higher than that, which we are just not accustomed to.
Yeah.
That's way off the charts. That's almost becoming like invisible light.
Yeah. And couldn't that make people tired, do you suppose? Do you think that can make you tired? Because a lot of people can't hold that frequency, right? It's too much.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is. A lot of people, that's why I said the most practical way you can deal with it is get grounded as much as you can. Get feet on ground as often as you can. If you have to wear shoes, wear them. But, for the most part, I walk barefoot every day.
Me too. Yeah.
I go to the shop once a week and I wear shoes. But apart from that, I walk barefoot everywhere.
Yeah.
And that just enables you to pick up that vibration and deal with it, because it's not going to, because when you're wearing shoes, you're insulated from that vibration. It's around you, but not in you.
Yeah.
And when it's around you and not in you, and in other words, you are not co-resonant with the vibration and frequencies around you. So you need to get back that co-resonance by getting on the ground and getting your feet on the ground.
Yeah. I agree with you. I agree with you. That takes me to like a whole nother subject. I'm going to kind of do a little sideline, but it has to do with how the frequencies are changing and how people, this is just with everything that's happening. I have been seeing more and more clients, people coming to me, and they are, um, I, I don't even know that there's enough words to explain like the devastation, the sadness, the anger. It's like sadness and anger is wrapped together and it is all up in their body. And I've been dealing with a lot of that. And with that, of course, the human mind can't handle what's happening. And I'm hearing a lot of people just want to leave. They just don't want to be here. They can't take it anymore. They're having um, thoughts of just not being here. And this isn't just adults who can't handle it. These are also children that are saying they can see the holographic reality and they're like, this isn't even real. Why do I have to be here if this isn't even real? And, it's creating dark portals, so people are getting used as, entity vehicles. I mean, it's really a shit show out there right now. And, pardon my language, but I really feel like it is. And some of these people are getting hit really, really hard. And, it goes beyond like, some like psychological counseling. It's like, they don't want to hear, okay, well, you're going to have to clean up your mess. Like you have to clean up, what we were talking about earlier this morning, the fears and the things we come in with. So I don't even know if I have like an exact answer, but like, what if someone is, or an exact question, I should say, but what if someone is just so tired and so exhausted and have been doing this over and over and over again, and they just can't seem to clear out these lower levels? Like, what is something they can do aside from obviously walking barefoot or, doing things, even giving them back to basics sounds really like too much for them. What are your ideas and suggestions about people who just are really struggling to cope with the struggling with this shift?
Yeah, look, the frequencies outside of us are very, very high at the moment. Okay. And if people are not grounding their bodies and their minds into that frequency, they're going to continue to have this trauma. So the first thing they've got to do is get their feet on the ground.
Yeah.
But besides getting their feet on the ground. I understand what everyone's going through, I think, and that is with the election of President Trump as President of the United States. It gave a lot of people a lot of hope, and people were more optimistic. They would give tax less, they had better government, they had a better economy, they had more jobs, and things were looking pretty good for the United States of America. Then we have the 2020 elections, and now the election's been stolen from the Republicans. And everyone knows that there's a system that's been around everywhere, not just in America, but everywhere, that is designed to be a control system. It's not natural and it's not normal, but it's there to control people. The last presidential election was that they slipped up. They couldn't figure out how this man could become a president when he wasn't a politician, when he didn't know the rules. But he did. And so now they invoking a lot of methods and systems, okay, and they've planned this very carefully. The elections weren't just stolen, because it happened overnight. It's been well planned, well developed. That's why Joe Biden could sit in his basement and not worry about winning the elections or campaigning or doing anything. He could just sit in his basement and he was going to collect the prize because he knew the plan, and the plan was to steal the election.
Right.
And that's going to be very depressing for a lot of people to deal with. On some level, including myself. I include myself in that because, I had a lot of faith in what's happening. But I still think that there is another plan that's going on. There are two plans going on. The Democrats might have their plan, but I think, the universe has another plan. The guardians have another plan. Our higher selves have got another plan. And, it's difficult to say what's going to happen, but I can tell you that the Democrats have planned that this election is going to be stolen because the Electoral College is going to lead to disputes so that on the 20th of January next year, it'll be undecided who the actual president of the United States is. And in that case, then the Congress, it goes to, well, first it goes to the Senate. The Senate, president of the Senate is the vice president, and he opens the electoral votes and he counts them. And if there's not a clear winner, and if there's not a clear winner in any state, like Pennsylvania or Arizona or Wisconsin, then those votes are discarded anyway. And so then there'll be a fight about who actually won the election, and the Democrats will hold one point of view, the Republicans will hold a point of view. They'll have a joint sitting of the Senate and Congress. And at the end of the day, Nancy Pelosi, as Speaker of the House, is going to she's going to eject all the senators, and so they have to leave the House. And so all the Republican senators will leave the House, and she will then propose that, according to the Constitution, if there's not a president decision on the president, then she will be elected as the acting president until a decision is taken. And so that's one scenario, that is possible. But that's what they're planning. That's what the Democrats are planning, to make this, to make it impossible to decide who actually won the elections. And it's going to be too late to have a new election, change all the electoral laws and the electoral system and so on. So by the 20th of January, you could have an undecided vote, and you could have, Congress appoint Nancy Pelosi as the acting president of this country until a decision is taken by
Mhm.
both Congress and Senate, because they both have to agree. And of course, you've got the Congress run by the Democrats and the Senate run by the Republicans. But they may not be run by the Republicans, because they're going to try to steal the Senate.
Mhm. Mhm. Right. So, so I think that, with all of this stuff going on in the world, there are people. I mean, I think what essentially what you're saying is, especially now, what's happening in the United States is happening on a world scale. This isn't just happening, here where I live, and I live in a blue state. And it's very challenging here. It's very mind controlled here. Um, yeah. So, but the people
People,
that are, go ahead.
people mustn't be passive. They must
Right.
start acting.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't
Now's
have to
not the time.
act in an aggressive way. They don't have to become violent. That they can become what I call a passive resistance movement,
Hmm.
who can use who, who can sabotage the government and the government systems,
Yeah.
and go into guerrilla warfare.
And you can do that lawfully. When as we the people, you can actually do that lawfully and be backed by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And a lot of people don't understand that, right? We the
Yeah,
people don't understand the actual rights that we have. And so I find that very fascinating. And there are actually lots of people standing up to do that and fight for that. Um, but back in terms of people feeling like this is hopeless, like the world is hopeless, why should I be here? Some people, like even the children who are feeling suicidal and feeling like these things are happening, they don't necessarily know what's going on. However, because there are so many sensitives, right, or empaths or whatever, even if they don't know who or what they are, they're picking up a lot of this. You can call it miasma or distortion or whatever, and processing it on a planetary level, right? So, it's not just, this is again, why it's so important to clear your own fears, your own ego, clean up, the mess that you already agreed to come and clean up when you were born, right? This is kind of, I'm just kind of summing it up. Clean up the mess you agreed to come in and help with when you were born, which means be very clear that you've cleaned up stuff from birth. So going back with a birth transduction sequencing, and coming back and healing all of that up to date. And then you can understand that what you're probably doing is healing on a planetary level, right? And then that's when the real work can start taking place. Once you've healed yourself, then you can go in. I'm going to say nearly pain-free, not 100% pain-free, right? But with clear conscience and with a clear light body, and from a higher resonance, um, and help everything shift the way that guardians and higher self and all of this wants has planned, has arranged, right? Because the last thing we want are the Satanists to continue their takeover, and this people don't understand. And I'm not saying all Dems are bad, okay? I don't want to say all Dems are bad, because a lot of them are just caught in the consciousness trap and they have no concept of what's happening. But but the bottom line is the party has gone so far left. It's not even it's not even Dems or liberals anymore. It's the party of the left. And unfortunately, the Dems and the liberals have gotten caught in this, and they're supporting um, satanic ritual abuse. They're supporting the takedown of planetary sovereignty, unfortunately. And I think people don't see that.
yeah, and people, what we have to do is be the light of hope for the world.
Yeah.
each awakened person, you must go out and speak positively and speak lovingly and kindly and give people hope. Say it's not going to end here. If Donald Trump's not elected now, he's still got another 4 years. We'll have another election. There'll be someone else there, and then you can monitor the elections so they can't steal the elections. There's always a glimmer of hope, but people mustn't be um, so discouraged that
Gloomy,
they
yeah.
think that there's no hope. We need to encourage them. We've got to tell them it's fine. If you're feeling that way, it's fine. But let me assure you that something's going to happen. Something's going to change. It's
Yeah,
all going to be all right. You came here for this time. You came here for this purpose and this time, and you give me hope, and I give you hope,
yeah,
because we came here together to
yeah.
do the work we're doing.
And as you
Yeah.
told me so lovingly this week, you sent me a beautiful message, and it was to smile and smile in the house, smile when I bake, smile when I talk to my children. And that just kind of gets me all emotional, but it's so true. Put a smile on your face, and and smile through the hard times. It's amazing what a smile will do. It's so transformative. So thank
Yeah.
you for that. One last thing, just curious, and Ryan sent in this last little bit. I know we're running over time, but what do you think? Do you think that martial law will be called? Do you think that Trump will just say we're doing
That,
it?
that's a possibility. The other possibility is to take some of these cases that have been brought by Rudy Giuliani
Mhm.
and legal team, uh, can be brought to the Supreme Court,
Yeah,
because that will really make the difference. But I think a lot of the courts will challenge the lawsuits. A lot of them will just delay them and not actually make a ruling on them. So, but if they can get a lawsuit, just one of those lawsuits through the Supreme Court, then the Supreme Court can actually make, you know, because the Supreme Court is the ultimate court in the land, and they will decide whether the selection's been fair or not. And
mm,
if enough evidence is brought to them, but they can't see the evidence until the process has been gone through, so they have to go to the circuit courts and so on. Yeah,
mm,
but I think martial law is like a last resort, but it's a possibility. I
yeah,
wouldn't rule that out. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I wouldn't rule it out either, but I guess we'll see. So smile. I think
Yeah.
positive thoughts, right? Clear your, clear your.
And I think there are some positives, like John Durham's investigation.
Mhm,
That is like the joker in the pack as far as Trump is concerned. If you can pull that card out before the 20th of January,
mhm,
I don't. He would like to be forced to do it, but if they play their hand too strongly, he might just pull out that card and say, "Okay, we've got you guys."
mhm. Yep. I heard a rumor, I've got my hands all in this everywhere, but I heard a rumor that he's going to actually, Mr. Trump, is going to actually announce his win on December 14th, which is pretty soon. So I guess we'll see. Will that actually be true, or will that bring in the next level of the Pelosi push, right? So.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's what the Electoral College actually then makes an announcement.
yeah.
That's where they officially announce who's going to be president or
Mhm.
is president. But if he's confident that the Electoral College is going to support him, then yeah, they could possibly support Trump, because it's been, I mean, just that's widespread
Yeah.
corruption. That
Yeah.
is,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, mm.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it's a very messy process. There are lots of ifs and buts and maybes and how and you do's and but the Dems' plan is to sabotage the whole election so
Yeah.
that they can get the Speaker of the House. In fact, on the 3rd of January, they vote for the Speaker of the House. So it may not be Nancy Pelosi. It could be someone else that they've got planned to.
Yeah, I
being,
guess we'll see, because they could throw anyone in there, right? I know her reputation is definitely going downhill. So, um, I mean, I think even within her own following, right? I think it's been going, so they could toss someone in, which actually makes me concerned, because there are some people that they could throw in that would really be a consciousness trap that would really get people to be like, oh wow, this is fantastic. I'm not going to name any names, but you know, you guys can use your imagination on that one. So
yeah,
yeah, yeah. All right, well, how are you?
every, everyone should just be excited. Say,
Yeah,
oh,
let's, create,
I'm in this fight. When I
right?
was young, I was in a fight and playing a game of rugby or playing something competitive. I'd get excited because
Mhm.
it's an opportunity,
Yeah,
and that's the way you should look at it. This is not a fight to lose. This is a fight to win.
yeah, yeah. And swords out, shields up. Yeah, we're definitely we're ready. I think they're that we're definitely ready. I mean, the ones that are left are definitely holding the line, right? I think we're holding the line well. So
Yeah,
I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for everybody that pops in to listen to us on Sundays. Sunday morning coffee with me. Maybe you guys are just finishing up your dinner, or having a, I don't know. I don't what do people have after dinner? I like to eat pie, but I don't have any. Anyway, thank you so much. We are over time, but I think we had a lot to cover today, a lot of really important things, and we answered some really great questions. So thank you for sending your questions in. Thank you so much, Colin, for being here. Colin just finished up, I think, part 6 of your Ascension courses, and so you can find Colin's classes, which it's so important, and it's so very important to understand the mechanics of ascension and understand who and what we are biologically, right? And by biologically, I'm not saying even just everything inside. That, I mean, obviously is important to know, but how we are out here, right? How our multi-dimensional reality is us. And Colin does an amazing job explaining these things, not just here when we chat, but he's got classes that you can go to the writings of Colin Joe. .com. So check out the writings of colinjoe.com, because and he's very, very affordable, like ridiculously affordable. This information is priceless in my opinion. So check him out. And then he's starting a new series of classes which will discuss healing. And so that's going to be really fun to see the perspective. I bet you and I have a lot of the same things. And the thing is, like, I feel and do. And then Colin seems to go, oh, well, that's this. And you know how that fits together. So he's just got a beautiful language for what so many of us are doing out here. And when you have the language, I think you can better understand what you're doing and heal much quicker and faster. Quicker and faster, those are the same words. I've either had too much coffee or not enough at this point. But it's worth it. So check out the writings of colinjoe.com. And thank you so much again. I love our classes together, and I'm sending everybody so much love. So thank you.
yeah. It's been lovely and an honor to be here and to chat with you, and much love and respect you. And fight the good fight. Get in the ring and start punching.
Right. We got this. All right, Colin, much love. Bye, everybody.
Punching spiritually.
Yes, yes, not in real life. Let's let's be clear.
Yeah. Okay. Love you all. Bye.
Okay, bye, everybody.